Hey, hello there, hello there, hello there. So, welcome. Today we're painting and we're talking about the inner critic and the creative voice and the difference between these two. This is probably one of the biggest questions I get whenever we're talking about intuitive painting and the creative process and creative expression and making your unique mark on the canvas. So, anything related to creative painting, this one always comes up. And earlier this week, I did a tutorial talking about the 7 common mistakes that painters make. If you missed that, you can go back and watch that. That is on our Facebook page. And so this question came up, and so I thought we could go a little bit deeper and do a little more in-depth talk about the difference between the inner critic and the creative voice. So let's get to it. So my name is Heather Freeman, and I get to teach people how to play with paint. And this tutorial specifically, we're going to talk about the differences and similarities between the inner critic and the creative voice. It's when you're using it for painting, and specifically, you need to be able to listen to it in order to move through the process, and keep yourself painting, and not just starting a painting, but finishing a painting. So it's oftentimes when we don't understand the difference and we don't know how to talk with that, those two parts of ourselves, then we get stuck and we can't even get started, or we get stuck somewhere in the middle and we can't get through it and finish a painting. So if you're watching live right now, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Put in the comments where you're watching from. And if you are watching the replay, that's awesome too. Go ahead and post in the comments #replay so that I know you're watching the replay. And as I promised, I'm going to be giving away a prize today, and this will be an awesome mixed media pad. So this guy is something that I use all the time in my painting, and I recommend it for all the creatives that paint with me. It's a great pad for playing around and trying things out and exploring. And this is a nice size. This is 11 by 14. So this baby I'll be sending out to one lucky winner today. And in order to get that, so this is how it's going to work. So anytime when I'm talking today, if there is something that comes up and you're like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense, I hadn't thought of that before, you can comment #with a takeaway. And so let me know what that takeaway is, what that aha moment is for you in the comments. And later on, I'm going to go ahead and randomly scroll through and pick a winner of this guy and send it off to you so that you can play and explore and have some fun with your painting. So that's how that's going to work. So, okay, let's get started. So I'm going to pull you down so you can see exactly what I'm working on, because I want you to be able to see that. That should be good. All right, so let me get my black paint out. So the reason we're talking about playing at the canvas all week is if you really want to share what's more in your heart and how to understand these parts of yourself, to be able to express what you want on the canvas, it's all about playing at the canvas. And I'm hosting a Painted Play Kickstarter challenge starting next week. And I'll share the link with you in the comments here in just a few minutes, and also in the description of this video, so that you can get yourself joined. If you're haven't joined yet, there is still time to join, still time to play. So the link for that will be in the description and in the comments. And we're starting on Monday, and we're going to spend an entire 5 days talking about what to paint, how to start expressing yourself in order to get more of your unique mark onto the canvas. And this is today is sort of a bonus training for those people that are part of that Kickstarter. And and are just more interested in knowing more about intuitive painting. So the first thing I want to talk about is the inner critic. The inner critic is an inner voice. It's a part of us. It's a part of everyone. We all have it. And the inner critic voice is that critical, judgmental voice that pops up. For some people, it shows up and is expressed like in things that say, oh, you shouldn't do that, or you can't do that, or you're not good enough for that. That is the inner critic talking. You're stupid, you're not good enough to paint or to be creative, or no one's going to care what you paint, or all those little thoughts that are negative and keep you small. That's the inner critic voice talking. And for some people it can be a really interactive voice, like it can show up a lot. And the problem with that inner voice is that the inner critic voice is when it gets out of control, and when it starts really controlling what you're doing and the things that you do and how you express yourself, especially on the canvas. So it's important to work with your inner critic. A lot of times people talk about overcoming their inner critic, or fighting their inner critic. And it's really more important to work with your inner critic, because it's always going to be there. It's always going to be a part of you. We all have it. And when we can work with it, then we can begin to understand the inner critic, and then consciously be able to make choices about what we're going to do with that information and how we're going to use it. So it's really important to be able to, have an awareness, be mindful of when that inner critic is coming up. Hi, Mira Luna. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Aw, thank you. Blessed your page. Nice. Great to have you here. So we're talking about the inner critic, and when that inner critic voice comes up, how do we deal with that? And how do we use that for our advantage? So, this can happen, like, here's an example. Like, say you're at the store and you're going to pick out some paint colors, and you usually go for the same paint colors, but maybe today you're like, I'm going to go for that crazy bright orange color, right? And then you're so excited, and like all like those fun creative juices start popping up, and you start feeling really good about picking out that crazy orange. But then when you actually, you put it in your cart, and maybe you're walking around the store a little bit more, and then once you're getting to the cashier, you start rethinking that, and you start doubting that, like, why would I want to get that orange? Like, that's so not me, or I've never used that orange before, and why would I want to spend my money on that? And so that's that inner critic coming up and saying, oh, no, you need to stay small. You need to stay working with what you already know. You've never used this color before. It's not worth your money. It's not worth your time. And so that's that inner critic, right? So we got to know when that comes up and be aware. And, and we're going to talk a little bit later about the creative voice and how to use them together. But that's the inner critic voice. So just kind of knowing the difference, knowing what that inner critic voice is and how it shows up is super important. So that's the inner critic talking, inner critic. So if you've got any takeaways, go ahead and hashtag takeaway. We're giving away a mixed media pad at the end to randomly to someone who's posted a takeaway. So if there's something that comes up that you're just like, oh yeah, that makes sense, or oh, I hadn't thought of it that way before, let me know. So let's let's get this guy in here. So let's talk about the inner creative voice. So people ask, do I only listen to my inner critic voice? Is that my compass? Like, is that who I need to listen to when making choices on the canvas, or, what I'm going to paint or how I'm going to paint? And no, you've also got this inner creative voice, and it's connecting with this voice. So using this voice as an element in your paintings, this is what creates that unique mark. Your unique style. So there's no two creative voices that are the same. Your creative voice is your creative voice, and it shows up in different ways. And that's what's awesome about your creative voice, is that it's completely unique. Start there. Sometimes, just to help clarify what that creative voice is, sometimes it's that voice that can be literal, right? Like an actor on the stage and is playing out his or her part, or, being a singer and singing out to the world, or being a speaker, or, an author giving a presentation, or so there's many ways that literally we can hear and experience the creative voice. But sometimes, our inner voice really is that voice that most encourages us in how much we authentically share ourselves and express ourselves. This creative voice really speaks from light and inspiration. So in one respect, we have an inner creative voice, and in another, we've got the inner critic. So we've just got to learn how to use them both. All right. And that creative voice is the one that's going to show up as your unique mark. Hey, Dana. Great to have you here. So, if you're looking for one takeaway from today, it's that the inner critic keeps you safe, right? It keeps you in your comfort zone, and then your creative voice keeps you growing and expanding. Your creative voice is really what pushes you outside your boundaries and allows you to keep playing. So I want to show you a technique that's super fun to play with, and it's using alcohol, but I'm thinking it might not show up well on my canvas if you're not super, super close up. So what I want to do, did I miss this? You haven't missed anything. No. And so today we're talking about the difference between the creative voice and the inner critic, and playing along, and if you're talking about Dana, I'm not sure what you're talking about in terms of missing, but if you're talking about the giveaway, you haven't missed that yet. So hang on tight. Share your any takeaways that you have, any aha moments, #takeaway, and let me know what that takeaway is. And the Paint and Play Kickstarter, we start that next Monday, and there's still time to get signed up if you haven't signed up yet. The link will be in the description in just a minute once this video is over, and then I'll also post it in the comments too, so you can get signed up if you haven't signed up yet. So what I want to show you is this really fun alcohol technique, and it gives a really cool effect when you use it with your paint. And so what happens is, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, and I think it's going to show up best for you right now with black paint. I'm not going to use it on my canvas, which I'm painting. Did I mention this? I'm painting a yin-yang symbol. Did I miss your painting? No, I'm still painting. Yeah. So this is what we're painting today, a yin-yang. And I picked this because it's symbolic of balance. So that inner critic voice is one part of ourselves, right? And that creative voice is also a part of ourselves, and we got to learn how to use both of them in order to get what's inside of us onto the canvas. So it's not a matter of battling the inner critic, and I think sometimes people think that you can at some point just kill the inner critic and never see it again. We develop it when we're teenagers, and it's something that is with us forever. It's just a part of ourselves. And so we have to learn how to work with it versus working against it or giving into it altogether, right? So I'm going to show you, I'm going to pull this back down here. And this technique particularly works well when your paint is pretty wet. And actually, let me show you. So I'll do like I'm going to do a thick coat of paint right here, my black. And, there's also, so part of it has to do with the paint and how you apply the paint, and part of it has to do with the alcohol and how you apply the alcohol. And this is super fun to play with, and you can see what works for you, and depending on the brand of paint you're using, and the type of paint you're using, whether it's a thick paint, a heavy body paint versus a thinner paint, versus a flow paint. This is going to work differently. So you got to play around with what you have and what you're working with. And so the paint is one part of it, and then how you use the alcohol. So you can use the alcohol in a spray bottle like this, or you can just use it straight from the bottle, put it in your hand, and sprinkle it down. So play around, see what works for you. But I'm just going to show you kind of how the effect works here. So I'm going to spray a little bit. I want to get this nice and close so you can see this. If I spray it on my thick paint, nothing happens, right? It just sits on the top and nothing happens, okay? I've got a little bit of a thicker paint here, actually a little bit thinner of a paint here, and then super thin here. We're gonna have to see how this works because paint is drying so quickly right now because it's so hot. But let's try it with the spray paint. So not a whole lot happened there on that black. Let's see if that's going to happen there. A little bit. So you got to play around with how much alcohol. Oh, we're starting to see it right down in there. Let's see, right down in there. And what happens is it kind of flutters out. And when you lay this, so this is on top of white, it gives a super organic, cool look. And you can start to see some of the paint from underneath. So you can see that it was definitely starting to happen kind of down in here, but this was a thicker paint, so it didn't work at all. Again, it still needed to be thinner. This one was thinner, but I think it was just starting to dry a little bit, and so it didn't work well. And then I want to show you again and how I splash it on, because that'll be a different effect as well. So let me do that right over here. So I'll do a thicker paint there, and then I'm going to wet it down a bit. Techniques for wings. Oh yeah, this would make a really neat technique if you're making like angel wings or butterfly wings. That would be gorgeous, I would think, my opinion, but you decide whether you would like that or not. But so let's do that. So that one's a bit more wet. The paint is more thinned out, and I'm just going to put some on my hand directly, and then oh yeah, see, that one definitely worked better. This is the thicker paint, splashing it on, not working as well. I'm going to try not to tilt it so that it doesn't fall, but you can see some of those little bubbles right in here. So super fun. The more you play with it, the more you can see how it's going to work for you and what you're painting. So hopefully you guys could see that. And I'm going to do that effect over here on my yin yang with my white paint. I've got some layers on here, and then I'm going to do white on the outside. Oops. Kind of mix some white with my black here. That's not going to work. Eyedropper. yeah, that would be another great different way to apply your alcohol. Yes, very cool. Great suggestion. So let me just find my white. I'm going to put a little bit more white on my palette here because I just totally mixed in some black by mistake. And I'm just going to paint the outside of this here. And just kind of give this a thin layer, and then I'm going to use my alcohol ink on it. So because I want to just be able to, I want to play around and be able to see if I can see get some of those under layers to come through. So we'll play with that. So, let's get to the fun stuff, right? So I talked about what the inner critic voice is, what the inner creative voice is, so you can understand what the difference is between these two. Now let's talk about how we can use them, right? Use them together. So number one is really noticing how your inner critic shows up. How it shows up, when it shows up. It pops up, when you're, if you're doing certain things, it's going to pop up. It's going to pop up for you. It doesn't pop up for everybody the same way, right? So that inner critic voice can be something that has been kind of, the seed was planted for that critical voice. Oh, that is totally showing up. I think you're going to be able to see that. Let me show you. I'm hoping you can see it on the camera. Ooh, there's some right there. Sweet. Once alcohol is applied, use a straw to blow the alcohol around. Oh, Dana. Yeah, that's another good idea. I love that. Yes, absolutely. There's just so many fun ways you can play with this. It's a fantastic idea. So noticing how your inner critic shows up. And then you can start to transform your relationship with the inner critic. But the first thing we need to do is we need to become conscious of it. So does it show up when you're alone painting, when you're social? Like, does it, kind of like thinking about like when it shows up in other parts of your life will help you understand and be more mindful of when it shows up when you're painting. Because your inner critic shows up all the time, in every realm of your life. So at work or at play, or it doesn't have boundaries. We need to teach it some boundaries. We need to teach it some boundaries. So just kind of becoming more conscious of when that inner critic is popping up is the first step, so that we can work with it. And you can start noticing, like, not only when you hear that voice, but when you feel that voice. Definitely it's something, feelings start coming up that are associated when that inner critic comes up. So it's not just the things that we say in our head, but it's how we feel. Like, does our body language change? Oh, that's great. That's working. And I'm thinking you're going to be able to see that. So that's even more awesome. So under normal circumstances, when it's not so hot outside, I would try to paint this whole thing and then just one time go at it with the alcohol, so that it's kind of more of a consistent white layer. But right now I'm working in sections because things are drying so darn quickly. And I just want to be able to show you the technique. So once we start noticing that inner critic and when it pops up, we can really start to feel more empowered to be a witness to that voice. So noticing is the first step. The second, choose to feel your creative power, right? So yes, that inner critic is going to come up, but yes, we also have a creative voice, and that creative voice has a place as well. So choosing to feel that creative power. We have much more to us than just our inner critic. And it's a choice. We got to make the choice. Say, yes, you're here, I hear you. And yet I also have this awesome creative voice inside of me that needs to come out, so how can we work together? Let's splash a little bit more. Actually, let me see how this is going to work. So the coming out of the sprayer can tend to be, just depending, it's working really well with this white, but sometimes it can be a little bit too much, and it'll just end up sitting on top and not having an effect. But this is definitely working with the sprayer as well, so that's cool. So the third one, use positive self-talk. You know, the negative voice, it exists because we've got a positive one as well. And it's the yin-yang. We've got both parts of that in ourselves, right? So when you start experiencing that negative thinking, come back at it with some positive self-talk. You know, the more we can engage in positive self-talk, the stronger this voice becomes. That red wasn't quite dry underneath. It's bleeding a little bit. That's okay. Keep working. Oops. All right, I'm going to add some more white up to this corner. Maybe thin it out a little bit. So when you start to hear that negative voice coming, you can take a nice deep breath and remind yourself of what you want to create. Remind yourself of the power of your creativity. And that negative voice is going to start to lose its power. It loses its charge. Because that inner critic is there because it wants to edit. It wants to, again, keep you small. Let's see how this might be a little too thick, but let's see. Nope. Oh, yeah. Too thick right there. Let me see if I can pop this back up here. Start to see that. Thin this part out a little bit more. It was too thick. Right in here. Just work our way around. So the fourth thing we can do is love the tension. You know, often we experience the inner critic. It makes us uncomfortable, right? It kind of makes us retreat. But when you can get comfortable with that tension, and then you can start to work with it. So, you know, recognizing, you know, when you start experiencing doubt and fear, it's a signal. You're touching onto something important and necessary for personal growth and creative expression, and for the growth of your painting. Just gonna come around the edge here. So you know you found balance when you feel connected, when you feel real and strong. So paint your way through that discomfort. Paint your way through the negative feelings. Try this a little bit more down on the bottom. Thin this out a little bit. Just come back over it. Let's see what happens here. There we go, just sprinkle it on. Yeah. All right, let me show you this one more time. You can see how that effect is starting. It's working in some areas better than others. That's all right. That's the fun of it. All right. Cool. Oh my gosh, look at me. Got paint all over me. That's pretty funny. You can always expect that with me. Let me just shift this up a little bit here. Great. Myra, I'll catch the replay. Need to get some sleep. All right, good. Let me just get this paint off my cheek. So let's see. Did anyone post any takeaways? All right, I'm not seeing any takeaways, so I am going to wrap up. And if you haven't joined the Painted Play Kickstarter, there's still time to do that. The link will be in the description and in the comments. So feel free to go ahead and join us. We're going to start on Monday. It's going to be tons of fun, really diving in deep in playing and painting and getting more of what you have inside of you onto the canvas. So thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye for now. Oh, the takeaway is, hold on. The takeaway is identifying the negative voice. Yeah, Dana. Awesome. All right, so you are the winner, my friend, of the Mixed Media Canvas. You're welcome. Yeah, so go ahead and email me at heather@thepaintedplayground.com. That's heather@thepaintedplayground.com, and I will get this out to you. Let me know what your address is, where I can pop this in the mail to you, and this will be on its way. All right, so thanks for hanging out with me today. Thanks for spending some time with me creating and painting and sharing your ideas too. It's awesome. I love that. And I'll see you next time. All right, bye for now.